All right, people, I need a go, no-go for the Geek News Central podcast. Digital archive recorders.
We're go flight.
Microphone.
We're go flight.
Video feed.
Go.
Web browser.
Go.
RSS data stream aggregator.
Go flight.
Interflux Toddism suppressor.
All right, I'm confused.
Host readiness check.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
The Geek News Central podcast is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to go. Cue Todd in
5,
Button, who's got the button?
4,
There is no cause for alarm.
3,
Everybody hold on to something.
2,
Just press the button.
1.
Showtime.
Welcome to episode 1137 of the Geek News Central podcast. It's Monday, August 15th. This show is sponsored in part by our good friends at GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can support this show today by visiting geeknewscentral.com/insider or simply just paypal.me/geeknews. You can always pick up Ohana gear at cafepress.com/Ohana store. Hey, I want to give a warm welcome to all of the Ohana, all the longtime listeners and viewers of the show. Thanks for being here. If you're brand new to the podcast, Ohana means family here in Hawaii. And I want to give you a warm aloha. And want to welcome you, of course, to the Ohana. Of course, again, if you're a longtime listener or viewer, thanks for tuning in. Just a little bit late start to the show tonight. Did a little bit of white balancing on some cameras. Got one that's being a little fussy, so we won't be using him tonight. But other than that, everything's going good. Got a lot to share with you this evening. And, of course, again, if you're brand new to the show, it's really important that you get, and let me sneeze on you, you get hooked up with Geek News Central over at geeknewscentral.com, and you'll find a myriad of ways to subscribe to the podcast, either via iTunes or on Android or via email or via Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, you name it, or even a old-fashioned RSS feed. If you don't know what any of that means, just click on the more subscribe options, and that will get you instructions on how to get subscribed to the show. It's very important that you do. That way you'll never miss a single episode here of the Geek News Central podcast. So definitely get over there. Of course, check out all of our member shows, or actually our family shows, the new media show with Rob Greenlee and myself, the ProGear.Guru site, the Gadget Professor with Mr. Don Bain, Health Tech Weekly with Mr. Jamie Davis, and No Better Than Average with Jacob and Jeff. All those links are available on the website at geeknewscentral.com. Of course, you can email me anytime you have a comment that you want to leave about the show. That's really kind of the best way to get on the show as well, because I cover all email comments at the end of the podcast. And, of course, if you want to follow me on social media, you can do so via @GeekNews on Twitter. Of course, you can connect with the Ohana here by becoming part of our Slack chat room. And if you want to become part of our Slack chat room where you just hang out with the fellow Geek News Central listeners, all you got to do is send me an email, again, at geeknews@gmail.com, and tell me that you want to be part of the Slack channel, and I'll get you added. You can follow me on Google Plus or on Facebook. Of course, you can watch this show on the Roku via the Tech Podcast channel, on the Apple TV by the Geek News Central video feed, listen on the Amazon Echo by telling Alexa to listen to the latest edition of this show's name. You can listen on Stitcher or watch or listen on Blueberry.com. So lots of ways to really get connected and listen with the show. No excuses there. We are where you are. Whether you're on glass or listening via earbuds, doesn't matter. We're all connected up. So got a lot to cover tonight, but take just a few minutes here and pay a few bills. We want to thank our good friends over at GoDaddy.com. And lots of great deals continuing. Of course, GoDaddy's been a long-time sponsor here of the podcast, and our August promotions continue with huge discounts. So maybe you want to become a blogger. Maybe you are thinking about doing a website for your wife, or setting up a website for your kids, or whatever the occasion may be, even getting your business revamped. Definitely consider using GoDaddy as your hosting provider. And I've got lots of great discount codes to save money, whether it be a $1 a month economy hosting, whether it be a $1 a month managed WordPress hosting. You can get a 30-day free website builder with a consult with GoDaddy. You can get a 99cent.com or you can even save 30% on new product purchases over at GoDaddy by using my promo codes. All of them can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And I do want to thank all of you. It's already, believe it or not, halfway through August, and looking at the metric system that I have available to me on the code and promotion utilization. Again, bravo. Thank you for your ongoing support of this podcast. Definitely not quite on track with where it was last month, but still way above average. So I want to thank you all for your ongoing support. And, of course, a sponsor here of this podcast for now, what are we at? 11 plus years. So, again, thanks GoDaddy for being the longest continued sponsor of any podcast in the universe. So let me, actually, I've got a few things I want to chit-chat with you guys tonight before we get into the stack. Not a lot of stuff, but definitely some travel stuff coming up here in the near future. I'm going to be heading out in a couple of weeks. Don't think maybe one show missed, and then another set of travel in the middle of September. So going to be out of the studio for a couple of weeks, so we'll be audio only while I'm on travel, as I traditionally do now. I used to take a full set of gear with me when did video on the road, but now it's just a little mini carry bag with an audio recorder, and we'll just do the audio podcast. And those of you that listen, those of you that watch will have to listen. So we'll be doing that, of course, with the show while I'm on travel. The Slack, as far as adoption, number of folks signing up, still a little bit slow, but we want to encourage you to become part of the Slack community and get over there and hang out with us and just chit-chat about everything geeky. And as far as the show goes and contributions, that's a great place to get involved. So I definitely want you to be involved with that. So send me an email and I'll add you to the Slack channel, as I talked about earlier. Of course, we are kind of in the wrapping up summer. For many of you here in Hawaii, it's the basically summer 365. Anytime you can run around in flip-flop shorts and a t-shirt, you're essentially year-round. Yes, virtual summer, but I know many of you are coming towards the end of your summer, getting ready, kids to go back to school and so forth. But that's kind of a good time of the year to really get creative. And if you have ideas about this show, things you think we should do, things that we should change, it's a great time to provide feedback and or even get creative on your own projects and services that you're working on. So this past weekend's been it was kind of weird. Took it easy. That's unusual for me, except for the wife honeydew list. It was a pretty slow weekend around here. So glad to be back. This Monday started off hot and heavy. Multiple calls this morning, and Angelo's back to work at Raw Voice because he got back off vacation. So lots of catching up with him. But other than that, we're just in the grind here, as I'm sure many of you are as well. But anyway, that kind of wraps it up for just chit-chat stuff. Not too much today. Not too much to share. And but we'll be talking more about stuff that's upcoming here in the coming weeks. All right, so let me go ahead and get into the stack right away tonight. Feeling rushed. I starting late on the show tonight. I apologize if we're kind of off to a quirky start on the show, but sometimes it happens that way. Hey, on the last couple of shows, we've talked about Muni broadband and the recent overturning of the FCC attempt to push for municipal broadband networks online. And, that was, we've talked about it, again, a couple of times here where it was, I considered a big loss on the legal front. But today the EFF has vowed to take up Muni broadband case after the FCC has basically been denied. So they're putting their weight behind the efforts to overturn or amend state laws that restrict cities from building their own broadband networks to compete with incumbent cable and phone companies. So this is big. This is a new front for the EFF, and I'm glad that they're going to do this. And they're going to go and start working hard in those communities. They can start, first place they can go is Tennessee. That's number one. Mississippi, number two. But they've had some success in the past in overturning burdensome legislation, I guess. Last year, 17 cities and counties in Colorado passed resolutions to allow for the construction of municipal network services, and the EFF was involved with that a little bit, so that's cool. So we'll see where this is going to happen, but the EFF noted that groups can help advance muni networks by pushing their local governments. This is what we talked about on the show last time, was to lay broadband cable during infrastructure projects. So if you know something's going on in your city, whether they're putting in new power lines or they're dropping new sewer in, which is happening all across the country because of aging infrastructure, this is a good time to go to your legislature, go to your city council person and say, hey, while we're spending these millions of dollars of our taxpayers' money, why don't we put fiber in at the same time that we're dropping down a new power line or burying power or putting sewer in, whatever it may be. And that way, even if they don't light that fiber up initially, the cost of laying that in while the trench is open is obviously much more inexpensive than having to go and dig it up later. So they can even at that point, too, if they so chose not to do a muni broadband project, they can lease that dark fiber to networks that connect with public facilities. So all kinds of cool things that can be done there. So I encourage you, and if you live in a small town, the only way we're going to get broadband moving out of the big cities and get the smaller communities of 12, 15,000 people, maybe 5,000 people wired up, or even out in the countryside where density is so great, is to, put as much fiber in the ground as we can. And it just makes rollout that much cheaper when a city may be in a position or working with a partner to light that fiber up. And hopefully someone locally can do that with muni broadband, and that's really the case. But glad to see EFF taking this cause on, and I hope those of you that are in communities that are fighting the muni broadband fight will be able to contact the EFF and let them know what you got going on, and they will definitely, I'm sure, take an interest. So this is good. It's a good thing for all of us. Today, Google announced that they're discontinuing Google Plus Hangouts on Air. And this is a little bit different, though. So on September 12th, they're pushing users to YouTube Live. And, of course, I'm on YouTube Live tonight. I'm on Facebook. And so while Google Hangouts does not appear to be going away, they're going to, and maybe it already exists, you can schedule this functionality after September 12th within YouTube Live. So for those who've been doing Hangouts on Air on Google Plus, which I know a lot of podcasters are, you go to the live streaming events in Creator Studio and the thing is, if you don't have a YouTube page yet, you should. If you're doing Hangouts on Air, you're more 99% assured that you've already have a YouTube account. But you click on the new live event, you select Quick for using Google Hangouts on Air, you give your live stream a title, and click to go live. I would test this and see how it works, make sure that you know how to get Hangouts initiated. But they kind of quietly did this. They're not fully sure why they're pulling it out of Google Plus specifically. It's always been a case where you can cross-post your Hangout to YouTube afterwards. But maybe the handwriting's on the wall with Blip going down. And of course, that happened. I don't know if we've talked about that or not, but Blip.im. I was a big fan of Blip, largely because of the social interactivity of it. We did a number of shows of this show live on Blip.im, and basically we would use a YouTube embed and some other trickery to get the full 16:9 up so that you just didn't see, my cutout on my face and how Blab worked. But they just announced one day we're pulling the plug tomorrow, and they pulled the plug. And I've never seen a community with 3 million users and maybe they ran out of money. I don't know what the situation is, but they said on their blog that it was an experiment, and basically they pulled the rug out from underneath a lot of users. So I don't know what's going to happen next, but this next piece to fall here with Google Hangouts on Google Plus being eliminated, it's definitely some concern for the streaming side. But I think there's plenty of options out there for many of you that are doing live events. And even if you are just a viewer of those, I think there's going to be some opportunity here for some of the recent startups are doing some similar things to really kind of expand and pick up some of the people that have left, specifically Blab and also the Google Plus specific Hangouts. But I don't know. I don't think it may be as big of an impact on the because you can still launch it within YouTube. So anyway, that's kind of news on the live front. Hey, over on motherboard.com, motherboard.vice.com, there's a report how the Australian authorities hacked computers in the United States. And, many of you are like, whoa, what's going on here? But the Australian authorities hacked Tor users in the United States as part of a child pornography investigation. The contours of the previously unreported hack operation come to light through recent filed U.S. court documents. The case highlights how law enforcement around the world are increasingly pursuing targets overseas using hacking tools. And, of course, cross-border stuff here. It kind of gets very interesting. But, again, in this case, Australian authorities remotely hacked a computer in Michigan to obtain a suspect's IP address. Now, they've got no jurisdiction in Michigan. But they did it anyway, which should make you go, just a little bit. But anyway, this particular individual was, I'm not even going to name the name of the site because it's disgusting in its correlation to child pornography. But this specific site was one of these dark websites, and I guess you would call all these types of websites dark. But the users were instructed to upload material. So that's even more disgusting, at least once a month, to maintain access to the website. And this website had over 29,000 members. So they turned over, the Queensland Police Server Task Force turned over this information to the authorities here in the United States. And then the FBI apparently went after this individual, as you would expect they would. But I don't know if anybody was arrested here. I'm looking at the information because you just wonder how, if this information is provided to U.S. law enforcement, then the U.S. law enforcement have to follow U.S. rules. I'm sure then they have to go to search warrant and everything else that is normally done, but I don't know how that cross information works in the legal system. But this individual, I guess, has been. They don't say in the article whether or not he was. I'm assuming he was arrested. So here's the legal part. Whether using a hacking tool to grab the real IP address of a Tor user constitutes a search in a legal sense, which, of course, has recently become a contentious issue in the U.S., several judges have said that suspects do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy around their IP address when using the Tor network, meaning that it is not protected by the Fourth Amendment, and a hack grabbing it would not require a warrant. Of course, the EFF on this specific, not in this specific case, but in other things related to it, have argued otherwise. But the FBI declined to answer specific questions about the specific site's operation, but said generally the FBI, led by its legal attaches and numerous companies around, seek to foster strategic partnerships with foreign law enforcement, intelligence, and security services, as well as with other U.S. government agencies. It's still, I don't think in this article anywhere said whether or not this individual in Michigan, if they tracked it to a computer in Michigan, I would imagine that this guy was arrested. Now, the site's original owner, who was in Australia, is now serving 35 years in jail for. This guy's disgusting. I can't even read it. But anyway, this is kind of an interesting move here. I obviously don't condone this type of activity, and people that are participating in it deserve every legal action against them that law enforcement can throw at them. But it just goes to show you that what's going on across borders. IP there really is no border for IP addresses, and but again, it doesn't go on to say what happened to this individual. That maybe we'll find that out in a follow-on article. But not surprised that this is happening, where they're trading information back and forth. What do you guys feel? Let's take the disgusting part of this out, where this individual, obviously was doing something he wasn't supposed to. But let's just think about that you're a law-abiding citizen, and you have a foreign government that is tracking your IP of sites that you go to, and maybe reporting that upstream to law enforcement for whatever reason. I don't know why they would be tracking you if you're legal, but it just goes to show that this cross-border hacking stuff by state agencies goes beyond like looking for state secrets and that kind of stuff. It's about authorities trying to track people down there doing bad things. But anyway, it's a little bit odd one. What do you guys feel about this? All facts aside, geeknews@gmail.com is a place to send your comments. Okay, there's a study out that says that you touch your phone, and I can't hardly believe this at all. It says you touch your phone an average of 2,617 times a day. Yeah, Harold, I meant blab.im for those of you in chat. You touch your phone an average of 2,617 times a day, more if you're a heavy user. That's 18,000 times a week, nearly 1 million times a year. There is no way that I touch my phone 2,617 times a day. Does that mean it's touch, scroll? Is that if they say we're doing 2,617 actions on our phone a day, that to me seems pretty incredibly high. Maybe my kids, but the average person that many times? According to Washington Post, that's a study that's come out that has found that's what folks are doing. And the touch interface is increasing the amount of times that we're, back and forth. That's a lot of that's a lot of touching of the screen. I just found that number to be incredibly high, that many times. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Just, do some quick math in your head on how much, I'm just touching my phone right now. That's 10. But, yeah, it's just, it's pretty amazing to me that number would be the case. A little bit of news out of Twitter. Last March, Twitter and Facebook, along with other tech companies, faced off over which of them would have the rights to live stream National Football League games on Thursday nights. And Twitter, in a rare win against rivals, emerged victorious in that with a deal with the NFL. Which is interesting here, that Twitter would have gotten, the ability to live stream the football games. So what they're going to do, when Twitter streams its first NFL game on September 15th, they'll get to assess, whether its vigorous pursuit will pay off and whether live streaming can viably be a linchpin of its future. They're making a deal where there's going to be, Twitter's going to be added to the Apple TV. And I don't know exactly how that interface is going to look, but I would imagine that they would feature the game on the Twitter app. And I'm not 100%, it just makes sense to me that they're going to stick that someplace where it's going to be in our face and we're going to be able to watch, at least on a small screen or maybe with a tablet, to watch the football game. The bet on live streaming by Twitter is crucial to turning itself into a mainstream internet destination after other efforts have failed. They're saying that live streaming could broaden Twitter's appeal, attracting an even wider audience. I don't know, if I'm watching football, I'm watching it on my big screen, right? I'm not necessarily tied to my phone. And I don't fully understand why someone would want to watch NFL on Twitter. But Twitter is saying that its younger audience is one of the reasons they made the deal. But they're going to be sponsored, of course. They have advertisers like Bank of America for the live streaming NFL games. So you're going to get to see plenty of their ads. But we'll see where it goes. And it won't be too long before we get to check out what Twitter's doing with the NFL stream on the platform. Just shows you this live stuff is it's still hot, even with some changes here to some of the, like blab.im and the changes to Google Hangouts. At the same time, Google's launched a Duo video calling app. This is something new here. It's a calling app that unites iOS and Android users. It's called Duo. It lets you do one-on-one video calls via your phone. It's kind of like the FaceTime rival. That's basically who they're trying to compete with here. Now, the only problem is that the problem is they'll have to download the app, but won't get any bells or whistles. Okay, what? The problem is they'll have to download the app, but won't get any bells or whistles, nor the ability to connect with Google Chat, Hangout, Spaces, the upcoming Allo Message product, or Google Android SMS. So it's a standalone product. Duo was announced at Google I/O in May, and so it's going to be available. It is available for all Android and iOS 9. Oh, it's going to be on iOS 9 and 78 languages. So we'll have to see how this works. I don't, be honest with you, I don't do too much FaceTime. The only time I do FaceTime is with family in Japan, and sometimes when I'm in travel, I do FaceTime with the kids. So going to have to download this and give this standalone app a run for its money and see how it works out. But again, it's called Duo. It's a video calling app, and it crosses both Android and iOS, which is smart. On drone news, and this should come as no surprise because the Navy and the Air Force for many, many years have spent big money to retain pilots. Sometimes their bonuses can exceed six figures over multiple years. But the U.S. Air Force is, with its increasing reliance on drones for air support and for surveillance, is having a little bit of a challenge bringing more drone pilots on board. And there's a shortage because late last year it even allowed enlisted to fly drones. The enlisted have been flying drones in the Navy for many, many years. So if any of you are thinking about joining the military, you can fly drones as an enlisted guy. But to provide an incentive to existing drone pilots who might be thinking of punching their ticket out, they're offering up to $50,000 in bonuses just to renew their commitment. Now, drone pilots already receive an additional $25,000 a year as a bonus, and if they renew their active duty commitment for 5 years, they will get $10,000 per year in bonus. That's nearly $175,000 in total in bonuses on top of their base salary. So if you think about that, though, depending on the rank of those pilots, it still probably only takes the majority of them into it'll take them to the $100,000 probably a year salary level. If you think about what the potential they can make as airline pilots, they may do first 2 or 3 years doing the slug runs, doing short commuter jumps. But then after that 3 years, kind of that probation time, and they jump into a big body, they can make some serious cash. And it's definitely, over lifetime, a lot more than $100,000 a year. So it's tough for them to retain these pilots because they want to get out and make the big bucks. And with the military the way it is today, with no guarantee of folks making 20 years, and also an age limitation on pilots, most of these Air Force pilots and Navy pilots, if they're not advancing very quickly, they don't necessarily want to stay in to waste prime years where they could be building up seniority within the airlines, which is signing pilots left and right now. There's a huge shortage. So anyway, $50,000 over 5 years, pretty cool deal for those folks in the Air Force. Really weird article. And I don't normally cover this, but I just thought it was so bizarre. And it actually 2 articles in a row that are coming out of Japan. And if any of you are audiophiles, basically folks that are audio fanatics, where you spend as much for a set of headsets as maybe a car. You guys are known for doing some pretty extreme things in your quest for pure sound. And apparently in Japan, Japanese audiophiles are taking things one step further. Specifically, Takeo Morita worried that tainted power would affect the quality of his music, so he installed a $10,000 utility pole with his own transformer to get more electricity straight from the grid, or basically get more pure electricity straight from the grid. And apparently they're selling all these kinds of kits now to these folks that think that either the power's not clean enough or cable, most of these guys are spending money on cables that, are like, $1,000 a foot, some ridiculous amount. But these folks are putting in actually power utility poles. It just makes you go, I guess everyone's got a hobby, right? Now, how many of you sent a fax recently? I think the only time I've sent a fax in the last year is I was having a hard time getting a order in to a trade show. And sent an email, it was bouncing. I was having trouble working with Freeman, but Freeman had a fax number. So I faxed my trade show order into Freeman. I think that's the last fax my HP multifunction printer has sent. I don't ever get a fax. That doesn't happen. But in Japan, fax machines are still a thing in a big way. And a lot of stuff is sent via fax still in Japan. And in some instances, it's what cracks me up is, the Japanese have these amazing cell phones. They've had amazing big screen cell phones for many years. Even, before the iPhone came on the market, we were way, way behind. And, now it's the Japanese market still has, you go into a, Japanese cell phone store, there's 500 phones that you can pick from. But yes, you can go to a digital store, basically where they sell, consumer goods, and you can find to this day fax machines, and they're often targeted more towards older folks now that are not, they're used to using fax, they're not used to doing email. Even companies in Japan still are not doing a lot of email. So it's to me, it's a little bizarre because I think most of us have left the days of the fax machine way, way, way behind. All right, switching up topics from a little bit of tech to a little bit about if any of you are down in Louisiana and are suffering or have suffered from this flooding, my heart goes out to you. Interesting read on what really has occurred and what caused this massive amount of rain. Some places getting 28 inches of rain in just 24 hours. But the Gulf of Mexico right now is like the hottest it's been on record for a long time. Last week, sea surface temperatures in the eastern Gulf were around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Up to 5 degrees warmer than usual for this time of year. And along with that is high heat in the region, high humidity. The dew point temperature just was, massive amount of water transferring to the atmosphere. And then just kind of the perfect storm of not very much wind, not too much activity. So this thing just, spun up and just dumped. And it even started to get a rotation looking like a tropical storm. It's set so long to kind of, pick up speed. But this inland depression just dumped on portions of Louisiana in 2 feet over 24 hours. Now, out of the reports that I'm seeing is they have had record-setting 500-year, what they're saying is a 500-year flood levels. Some folks are saying 1,000-year flood levels. Some flood gauges were 5 feet over all-time records that were on the books. So they got hammered bad, and your heart goes out to them. But I was talking with my mom, and she's up in Michigan, and there was enough moisture being pushed up that they actually were getting heavy rains in Michigan. There was a belt of moisture pushed up, and they needed water bad. So, they're obviously not getting that much rain, but some parts of the country are definitely getting wet, and this, I guess, is about to wrap up. But essentially the perfect storm for getting drenched. And you can imagine that 24 inches or 2 feet of water in 24 hours. That's just amazing. There's a hypothesis by Stephen Hawking where he made a prediction that black holes aren't totally black and they evaporate over time. He says that they emit that when black holes basically go away, they emit tiny amounts of radiation in the process. A lot of people scoffed at him when he made that statement in 1970. But now Israeli physicists have reported strong evidence to date that Hawking was right in a new paper in Natural Physics. He said that there is some information that it does weigh out, that black holes could not necessarily collapse upon themselves, but kind of run out of steam, for a better word. So this is real techy and deep on the science side, but I'll have the link up in the show notes for those of you that follow the science part of the show. But this is interesting news out of Israel, kind of backing up Stephen Hawking's predictions. Along with that, NASA is using artificial intelligence to save the lives of firefighters and first responders. NASA has a new artificial intelligence capable of running on a cell phone. The hope for the new AI called Audrey is to be deployed in the field to help save first responders' lives by making split-second recommendations in dangerous situations. Audrey works by pulling in data from the environment and from the equipment being carried by first responders. So what the AI can do, the algorithms or the smartness of this software program can determine temperature changes, specific type of gases, and other threats. And the cloud-based overseer will then on its own send custom warning messages to individuals in the field. In a fire, it might detect a propane tank through a camera carried by the firefighter or warn of elevated temperatures in a nearby room. So they're working on trying to make it a lot safer for folks that are out there that are fighting fires and EMTs. This specifically would be for folks that are fighting house fires, not necessarily folks fighting forest fires at this point, but it also has got a monitor where we'll actually monitor the respiration and heartbeat of a firefighter, and if they detect that a firefighter may be overexerting himself, about to have a heart attack, that it could warn the wearer and also EMT outside. So this is something interesting NASA's coming up with. Of course, they've been monitoring astronauts and environments for many, many years. So it makes sense that they have programming that will do this. So we'll see actually when this makes it to the field. But very, very cool stuff being done by NASA. There's some glaciers out there that are pretty old. In Greenland specifically. Greenland has glaciers that scientists predict could be have been formed, and the deepest part of the glaciers could be as much as 4 million years old. But they recently done some deep core samples, getting to the bottom layers of some glaciers, specifically in the Greenland ice sheet. And they are not disappointed. They have found some samples 900,000 years old by basically looking at argon gas and the radioactivity level of that, and a variety of different things that they've done some testing on. But they've also been surprised in some other tests where they found that the ice sheet wasn't quite as old as they thought it was, dating back only maybe 400,000 years. So still some pretty old ice out there. And it's pretty amazing. And if you think what they actually did was, on some of these core samples they took, within the ice itself, there were some of the atmosphere got trapped, and they were able to do some atmospheric tests. So they kind of got an idea what the atmosphere was like back then, which is kind of cool. Of course, you got snow that's falling through the air that obviously, when it lands and compacts, make up the glacial field. So pretty cool. I'll have that link up in the show notes for you, and it's an article over on Ars Technica. Reddit is standing up for its community. Reddit has told specifically, which label was it? Atlantic Records, that it will not cough up the IP address of a pre-release music pirate. And what really happened here, the song Heathens was originally uploaded on June 15th to the file-sharing site Dropfile. That same day, the file landed on Reddit, and according to a lawsuit in the New York State Supreme Court, the file was posted to the 21 Pilot subreddit with the title Leak New Song Heathens at specific URL. So what happened was a Reddit user saw this file over on Dropfile and basically cross-posted it. So, instead of Atlantic going after Dropfile to figure out who leaked the file, Atlantic's going after, actually, there was two individuals that cross-posted. One did the link, one actually uploaded it. And so there's a big battle going on, big legal battle. And basically Reddit told Manhattan Justice that Atlantic does not describe the claim it would bring against a non-employee Reddit user who discovered the link on Dropfile and who posted it to Reddit without assistance from an Atlantic employee or employee of the field by ramming the member of 21 Pilots or their manager, each of whom had access to the song at the time of the leak. And Reddit's also saying you're going after the wrong website. So it looks like they're trying to protect a couple of Reddit users and fighting Atlantic. So Atlantic maybe should go to the source, don't you think? I didn't see this particular. I wasn't watching HBO over the weekend at all. But John Oliver mocked devices that nags you until you make a car payment. And what's kind of funny is I know someone that sells cars, used cars, and I talked to him about this specific thing a couple of years ago. And I asked him, I said, do you guys put trackers in? Because he sells cars basically to anyone at really any kind of credit level. And he has to repossess a vehicle from time to time for non-payment, as you would imagine. And I basically asked him, do you put trackers on your cars to be able to go find them when people don't pay? And he said no. He says they're a small enough community. Usually the cars are in people's driveways. They don't necessarily hide them. At least where I grew up, that's not an issue in being able to repossess a vehicle. But apparently in some cities, if you bought a car from a used car dealer and they have financed it, and I don't know exactly the type of a car dealership that would do this, but if you haven't made your payment, this in-car device starts beeping at you, and basically letting you know every 5 seconds that you have not made a car payment. And then, if your car payment goes beyond the window that is allowed for your, when your payment was supposed to have been made, the device actually locks the car via GPS, calls home to mama, and basically allows the vehicle to be repossessed. Now, what happens when we have self-driving cars? You're rolling along in your self-driving car, you're texting away and tapping at your laptop, and suddenly something comes from your car speaker, said, hey, make your loan payment now. And if you don't, the car stops, opens the doors, and kicks you out, and closes the doors and drives the vehicle back to the dealership. So is that the future when we have self-driving vehicles? Vehicles will repossess themselves? Do any of you have one of those beep, beep, beepers in your car that if you don't make your car payment? And I shouldn't laugh. Some people are on financially tough times, and sometimes you just need a car, and you have to do any means possible to get a vehicle. And I've been lucky. I've never had a car repossessed, but I've had friends who've had more than one repossessed from time to time. And so, they don't necessarily have a super great credit. So they're having to go to car dealers that will work with them. But and sometimes, I had one person tell me that sometimes he sold a used car as many as 4 or 5 times. You sell it, it gets repossessed. Resell it, it gets repossessed. I think that would be called the cash car. All right, moving on. A Tesla Model S on a test drive in France. Can you imagine? You're in a test drive of this thing, and all of a sudden you get a warning on the dash, and then you hear a loud noise, and then you smell smoke. Well, you park the car along the side of the road, and it burns to the ground. So I think this is the first report I've ever heard of a Tesla that had a obvious battery failure, and basically burned up while the vehicle was being driven. It makes you want to cry, though, to think about a beautiful vehicle like that driving. But it was a Model S at 90D, so not an inexpensive vehicle whatsoever. But it'll be interesting to see if and when Tesla issues an official explanation for the fire. And while a car catching on fire when involved in an accident is nothing new, because the vehicle gets they get smashed up and the batteries get jacked, and you have thermal runaway. But this was a perfectly good vehicle, supposedly I would imagine new. If it's being put on a test drive, burn into the blocks. Not a good sign. Hey, there's some more hotels have been hacked, costing tens of thousands to basically get in notices from Starwood, Marriott, and Hyatt. Also Intercontinental Hotels, HEI Hotels and Resorts. So again, the chain that owns Starwood, Marriott, Hyatt, and Intercontinental Hotels, HEI Hotels and Resort, said this weekend that the payment system for 20 of its locations have been infected with malware. So they're sending letters to everyone that was affected. Oh, actually, their HEI is actually saying it's unclear how many customers have been affected. But it's tens of thousands at this point. So just another day, another hack. All right, let's skip that one. And hey, did you hear the news why the Olympic pool turned green? Well, apparently, some pool guy it would put 160 liters of hydrogen peroxide to the pool, neutralizing the chlorine and letting all manner of nastiness grow in the water. Apparently, it got so bad that the pool had to be drained. Going to the Olympics, you got to have clear water, right? Especially for some of those sports where they're doing the, what is it called, the aquatics dancing or whatever it is, where they're upside down and, they have to see each other. When it's green slime, doesn't make for such a good event. But They actually drained the pool and refilled it from another pool in the Olympic complex. I guess I just can't turn on the Rio's not one of those places where you can just turn on the fire hydrants and fill this thing. But boy, oh boy, hydrogen peroxide. I didn't even know. I don't have a pool, so I didn't know that was one of the chemicals you use. If you are an Android user, 1.4 billion Android users are vulnerable to hijacking attacks. As reported last Wednesday, the flaws first appeared in version 3.6 of Linux operating system kernel, which was introduced in 2012 in a blog post published today. Researchers said that the Linux flaw appears to have been introduced into Android version 4.4, aka KitKat, and remains present in all future versions, including the latest developer's preview of Android Nougat. The tally is based on Android install base reported by statistics provider Statistica, and it could mean that about 1.4 billion Android devices, or about 80% of users, are currently vulnerable. So Google is working very diligently to come up with a patch, and hopefully that this will be rated high enough that the OEMs will get out there and patch the phones. You know, OEMs are notoriously slow and doing patches, especially security patches on Android devices. So we'll see where that goes. Hey, Minecraft VR mod shuts down. I don't know if any were aware of that, but Microsoft today has officially added official Rift support. So today Microsoft released official Minecraft on the Oculus Rift VR headset, making good on a promise that was made 11 months ago. That official support, however, helped lead to the end of a popular mod that's been letting players experience Minecraft on the Rift for a few years now. So if you have an Oculus Rift and you play Minecraft, it's available now. You can do that. Very, very cool. I'm thinking about picking up one. I haven't decided yet. They're pretty expensive. So I'm going to leave that alone at this point. There's also a good article about some VR tech that's actually using eye tracking. So you don't have to necessarily turn your head so much. You can use your natural eye movement, and the VR device will actually track where you're looking at. So it's still kind of in a demo ability at this point, but it could be at some point where not only moving your head and moving your eyeballs it's more natural of a way to be in VR. So they're pretty excited about it. There's a CNET video on it. I'll have a link up in the show notes for you to take a review on that. This is probably the biggest story of the day. We'll see how much legs it gets here over the next week or so. And some hackers are claiming that they've been able to hack some NSA code. And if this story turns out to be true, there are probably some folks in Washington, D.C. that are crapping their pants right now. But, you know, you would think that probably some of the best hacking code would probably be owned by that government agency. But this hacker group brazenly announced the theft of a collection of files they say belong to the NSA, and they're auctioning those files off to the highest bidder. They're looking to raise $500 million. That's how much they think this code is worth. Now, the anonymous group calling itself Shadow Brokers posted a page to Tumblr claiming to have breached the computer system used by a third-party company that supposedly has highly sophisticated cyber spies. And so apparently this is where these folks were able to to go after this group, and they attacked them to get a reverse attack, and were able to get these files downloaded, 300 megs of code. And but if this is the case, if they've got the real deal, I'm sure that there'll be some government agencies out there, non-U.S. based. They're probably going to step up and pay for the pleasure of getting hold of that code. If this really ends up being the case, this could be a very devastating compromise. And that's all we don't need, is getting our taxpayers' hard-earned code being leaked to some third-party country, or worse yet, somebody that's got the commercial means to raise that kind of cash and be able to buy it. Now, they are saying that collectively, if they raise enough cash, they're just going to put this stuff out there for the public to get access to, which is even more kind of scary. So we'll see what develops here over the next couple of days on this. There's a new movie coming out in January of 2017 that I'm probably definitely going to watch. It's called True Geniuses Behind Apollo. And it involves a group of brilliant mathematicians who made NASA Apollo's missions possible. And what's even more interesting about this is that a number of ladies of color were some of the highly skilled mathematicians that were used by NASA. One specific young lady who was really kind of like an Albert Einstein level genius with mathematics, was basically built some of the trajectory code that was they basically had to be designed from scratch. So the trailer on this is pretty awesome. But anyway, I'll have the link up in the show notes. If you watch the trailer, I think it'll be a movie. It's a feel-good movie for sure. And it's being played by Tarji Henson from Person of Interest and Empire, winner of the 2015 Medal of Freedom. So Johnson, who's now retired as a mathematician from NASA, is the person that's primarily highlighted in the story. So very, very cool stuff. And it's probably a story that needs to be told. Google's working on a mysterious new operating system called Fuchsia, Fuchsia. And not a lot of information about it, but it is not based on the Linux kernel. This is a brand new build. This is something new. According to the GitHub page, it's pink plus purple equals Fuchsia, a new operating system. And again, it's based on a completely different kernel known as Magneta. This is the microkernel, which itself is based on a different project called Little Kernel. The intended use of Magneta was as part of an embedded system like you might see on routers or set-top boxes. And it seems that Google wants to use it for more than that. So we'll see where this goes. But it does appear to be potentially a lightweight operating system. But always fun to see this new type of stuff coming out. All right, the iPhone 7 is fast approaching here. The reveal will be, in the next couple of weeks, maybe up to a month. I can't remember the exact date in September, but they say that one of the features that may be coming to the new iPhone lineup is either fast charging or the ability to go to maximize conserve, basically where you can, in Android devices, you can, for the most part, go into a super power save mode. And that maybe is what's additionally coming to the iPhone 7. What happens when they get to 10 or 12 or 15? Hey, the new Audis, and Audi's always doing pretty cool stuff. New Audios will count down to the light turning green. So if you're driving the right car on a supported road in a compatible city, you'll pull up to a stoplight, and it will actually count down on your dashboard before the light turns green. Now, I'm sure what this is going to cause are some accidents, because if someone's just watching the countdown on the dashboard and the light turns green and you jump like a rabbit into the intersection, it's going to end up ending up with some cars being T-boned. The way vehicles today are always going through the lights on pink. So as long as it had some additional safety features, I'm sure it's going to be cool. But they're going to tie into cities' infrastructure that basically does the timing on the lights and stuff. So you'll get the countdown on when you're going to get a green light. All right, every major cable TV company lost subscribers in the last quarter. Doesn't make me feel bad at all. The 11 biggest TV providers U.S. represent 95% of the market, lost 665,000 net video subscribers in Q2 2016. This is more than double the losses of 2 years ago. Previously, the companies lost 545,000 subscribers in Q2 of 2015, 300K in Q2 2014, and 350,000 in Q2 2013. This year's Q2 net loss surpassed the previous quarter low set in last year's second quarter. The only major TV service to add subscribers was DirecTV, which gained 342,000 a quarter to boost its total to 20.5 million. But DirecTV is owned by AT&T, so U.S. TV server lost 391,000. So basically a net loss for AT&T's pay TV service. Comcast net loss was 4,000. Charter was 143,000. Mediacom 11,000. Let's see, who else? Cable One lost 11,600, and then other major private companies lost 30,000. Let's see, who else? Dish lost 281,000. So again, the net total subscribers at the end of Q2 was still 93,753,000 with a 665,602 loss. So little by little, people are cutting the cord. Hey, Tesla is prepping a bigger 100-kilowatt battery for the Model S and Model X. So this will give extended range, as perhaps as much as 380 miles for the Model S. Currently, the 90-kilowatt batteries are the company's largest capacity. And so that's interesting. I'd like to have a 100-kilowatt battery on the side of the house to completely go off the grid. If you've been cheating on Pokemon Go, well, Niantic is handing out lifetime bans. And when they handed out lifetime bans in Ingress, they mapped your IP and MAC address and blocked it at that level. They didn't block your account. So even if you went out and created a new Gmail account and tried to log in, they basically still locked you out. There's some cool dudes that took bowling balls, dropped them from 150 feet, and impacted them over an axe. And a bowling ball's being tossed from a 150-foot tower. Yes, you can split a bowling ball. I'll have the video up in the show notes for you to take a look. Hey, Windows 7, if you're still on it, or Windows 8.1, the update interval is basically moving to the Windows 10 cumulative update model. So it'll be a little bit different now for updates to Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. You know, the traditional Patch Tuesday won't be quite the same anymore. But October's Patch Tuesday is going to see the release of the first monthly roundup for Windows 7 and 8.1. Again, this will be a single package delivering all of the security and reliability improvements released that month in a single download. So that's something new. Also, Volkswagen, I didn't know that they were done facing charges, but Volkswagen is supposedly facing U.S. criminal charges in Dieselgate. So, you know, they've already reached a $14.7 billion deal with federal regulators over Dieselgate, but it looks like there's more stuff coming. So, boy, before this is all done, will VW be able to survive? How many of you saw the new Rogue One trailer? Yes, I'm talking about Star Wars. If you haven't watched it, I won't be a spoiler, but you can find out about how the Resistance found out about the Death Star. So, nice, cool little trailer available for all of you to check out. Nokia. Yes, I guess Nokia is still in business. There's a new guy in charge of Nokia, and he's basically been empowered to revive the Nokia phone brand. So I think this guy has a daunting task in front of him. The notion of a high-end Nokia phone is more the stuff of nostalgia than reality at this point. But, you know, Nokia at one time was a dominant player in the 90s. But, you know, the company faded completely due to competition from Apple's iPhone and, of course, Google Android phones. So I don't know if they're probably looking at going with Android base, obviously, or maybe even Windows Phone. So actually, Rob Greenlee, he just recently got a new Windows Phone. I didn't even know they were making new Windows Phones at this point. I was kind of surprised, but he was happy little camper Saturday showing that off. Android 7.0 can now help you use less data in an intelligent way. So, it's a new feature that's coming to Android 7. It's a data saver feature, and it isn't like the current data usage settings in the Marshmallow build, nor is it like Sony's Stamina mode. Rather than just cut off when a certain user set amount is consumed, or stop all background usage completely in every connection, Data Saver kicks in anytime you're on a metered, read not unlimited data connection. If you are, it limits apps and background processes to a set amount of data, which influences how often they can dip into it. When you're on an unmetered connection, no data cap, it allows the apps to do everything they were programmed to do, in other words, Wi-Fi. Changes to the Connected Manager API and SDK version 24 includes a way to check if the device is on a metered connection when anything about the connection changes and if the data saver is enabled. So some changes coming to Android 7 for those of you that are living in areas where there's data challenges, and oftentimes outside the United States data can be very, very expensive. We're in Coast to Coast AM. I just got to share this very intricate crop circle. I think we all pretty much know now that humans go out and march around in a field and basically make very intricate designs of crop circles. But I will have to say that the one that showed up in on a farm in UK covering about 2 acres is pretty doggone awesome. And they got a video of it. They flew a drone over it. I don't know how long it took them to make this thing, or how they maintained to stay, and do these designs. But people are trying to figure out exactly what the crop circle means. Trying to determine number one. They think there's hints on who actually did this versus aliens landing, but you just got to hand it to folks that have that much energy to go out and traipse around. Hey, this story was also reported on Geek News Central, but we're in Coast to Coast. They're talking about the chemtrail study. And basically they said that chemtrails are no such thing. They're just actual contrails from jets. They're not chemtrails. I think those of you out there that know about chemtrails and believe in chemtrails probably will not believe the believe the 76 experts who say that chemtrail program does not exist. Of course it doesn't exist if they were told never to say anything about it. Don't you know that's how secrets are maintained. Plausible deniability. But chemtrails, yeah. All right, let me go ahead and get into the email for tonight because I'm just about done. A little bit weird show today. Beginning was odd. Every once in a while when I start a show, it just doesn't pace the same. And I think today was one of those incidents. Okay, today is the 15th. The last show was on... Oh, you guys don't love me. No email tonight. That's okay. I still love you guys no matter what. Hey, if you've got comments on today's show, if you got stuff I want to cover, Facebook stuff that you link to me is often very, very difficult for me to keep in the queue. So if you find something on Facebook, send me an email with the actual link to the article on Facebook, or if it's on Google Plus or someplace like that, or if you find an interesting article on the net, fire that over. And of course, I give full credit for articles that we cover here on the show. And of course, everyone is covered because I don't ever turn an article down or turn an email down. So definitely feel free to do that. Of course, we want you to become part of the Slack group. And if you don't know what Slack is, it's basically chat channels. And you can just kind of hang out, make comments, as you've listened to the show, if something struck you funny, you can go in and leave a comment. You can talk with other members of the Ohana here. So send me an email. And Dave, I've got you to add to the Slack channel, so that I'll get you added here. And thanks for the request, and a few others as well that have already asked to be on the Slack channel. So think about coming over and hanging out with me. Then we can get all a little more interactive and get to know one another a lot better. Those of you that have been hanging out with me on Facebook, thank you so much. And your comments, I definitely appreciate it. Everyone take care. I'm going to roll up and get out of here. Don't forget about our sponsors. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time here on the Geek News Central podcast. Everyone take care. Aloha.